gentlemen, we are back, and today we are talking about colorism. For the people that don't know, colorism is the prejudice of skin tone within its own culture. So we kind of have already been talking about it before we got started. We got the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So does colorism really exist?
I don't know. I mean, I don't even see color. I see green, yellow,
Oh my
red.
goodness.
Do you not? I hate it.
When you said that,
I hate it.
I found this lady named Jane Elliott. Do you guys know who she is?
No.
Wonderful lady. I will say white lady.
Okay.
And she is, I say white lady because she is basically a civil rights activist for black people, though.
Oh, is that the older? She's the older lady.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
And when Martin Luther King died, she she was a school teacher, and she developed a test called Brown Eyes, Blue Eyes.
Okay.
Where she used this test to show elementary school students. She was basically trying to explain why Martin Luther King got shot.
Okay.
So she said, hey, we're going to split up people with brown eyes, with blue eyes, and then every other color eyes. Now, everybody with every other color eyes, you guys are just basically trash to society. Brown-eyed people, you are the upper echelon for no reason of your own. You're the smarter people, more Christian, more wealthy, more well-to-do, higher IQs, just everything. Okay. And the people with blue eyes are not smart. You guys are dumb because more light gets through. You have less pigment in your eyes, so more light gets through, so you can't think critically. And the students basically had that face. And she was like, yeah, so I was trying to display to them how you can be judged on an aspect of you that you had no choice in picking.
Man.
Right.
Man.
And she was using that to tie into explaining the death of Martin Luther King.
Wow.
So I just came up on this lady, and it's funny how God works, because I was listening to a podcast that is not of holiness. It's not bad, but it's a just a mainstream podcast. But they brought this lady up, and because I like digging deeper into things, I looked her up, and I was like, she is awesome. She was ostracized for that, by the way, just to follow up.
Yeah, I'm sure she was.
She was ostracized. Her kids were bullied and stuff for this, because back in that time, she was basically considered an N-word lover, as she put it. But I didn't mean to bring up the whole civil rights movement. Let's get back to colorism. Good. But look her up if you guys don't know who Jane Elliott is. She's a great resource.
We won't do that. Colorism.
Yes.
Because I was about to. I now know who she is. But colorism, you guys, I found this poem. Well, it's not a poem. It's like this little schoolyard. Remember back in the school days how the girls would sit around and do the little, we had a little rhymes or something like this. Well, there was a rhyme that was said back in, I think they said it came from the 30s or 40s. And it said, if you're black, stay back. If you're brown, stick around. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're white, you're all right. And that's basically one of the little rhymes that the school kids, even black school kids, would say back in the day to, differentiate between who's the better color. Here in America, that was something that was happening here in America. But, colorism, yes, it's alive and doing very well. Unfortunately. So not only are we battling racism, but we are battling within ourselves a self-hate that has been cultivated and guided and just placed inside of us to where, we will dog each other out based upon that skin tone. And it doesn't even matter. Like at this point now, I think colorism is at the point of, if you're a dark-skinned person and you talk bad about light-skinned people, and it's not just now the lighter tone people talking bad about the darker tone. Dark tone folks then came up, it was like, nah, you the ones that don't look right, and all of this stuff. And it's basically the separation of the house. You separate the house Negroes for here in America, it was the separation of the house Negroes and the field Negroes. And it basically indicated, well, I am better than you because I'm in the house, or I'm better than you because now they kind of see me as less of a threat. Caucasian folk, they look at us as less than a threat, so I can come in the house now.
Right.
But yeah, colorism is live and well. What about Canada? What's it like out there?
Same thing. So,
I'm sure.
literally shadowing exactly what your experiences are out there. And because, and so funny because Canada is so diverse,
Yeah.
I learned quickly that it was happening in every culture. So it wasn't even just, okay, it was a black, in the black community, and we noticed it was happening. I
Yeah.
was around people from all over the world, and it was the same thing. Like one of my friends, she's from Trinidad, but Trinidad has a mix of people that are from India. And she happened to be born with the darker complexion, and knew that her grandmother didn't take to her too much because her cousins, were of a lighter shade. So
Yeah.
all those experience came into this one boiling pot here in Canada. So it's exactly the same thing. It's unfortunate when you're younger, you really don't even know what it is. You don't even call it that. You just
Yeah.
think that, there's no name for it. It's just like you identify why it's happening. It's like, but you don't really learn about how to deal with it or anything like that. It's just like you accept it because that's how it's been and this is how you're treated. And then you realize it's happening to everybody. So you just kind of, to deal with it for us, it was like you just kind of brushed it off and let it roll off your shoulder. But definitely experienced it here. Same thing in Jamaica. As many of you know, my family's back from Jamaica. Same thing, if not worse sometimes, because the way they say things can be a little harsh.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
It's just surprising to see that it happens in these other cultures because it's literally a mechanism to keep a culture divided, right?
Yep.
The whole purpose of it is to isolate part of a culture, give them some kind of intrinsic value, and then put them back, and then keep that culture, basically imploding within itself.
Yeah.
Right.
So with that being said, does it happen in the Asian culture or the Filipino culture?
Yeah, so I don't want to, well, I would say the Filipino culture, but I don't want to say all Filipino culture. But yeah, I don't want to say, yeah, historically, basically, your lighter skin is associated with wealth, right? If you are darker skin, that means you are working in the fields and you're poorer. And there's this, like if you look on like TV shows in the Philippines, they idolize American culture, but I guess in that way, like you always see like super light, super fair complexion of like Filipinos. You rarely
true.
see
That's true.
dark,
That's true.
Filipinos. So it's like white is better, white is lighter, or yeah. So it's better.
Yeah.
And then even so I don't know if so this is a thing. So there's like a soap whitening. So there's skin whitening or lightening products, and it's a multi whatever dollar business where it's like a Filipino thing where you wash it and it makes you lighter, and it has bleach in it. But they're going to that extent. People in different cultures are going to that extent to look lighter. In Filipino culture, it's like don't go, make sure your skin's covered so you don't get darker, right? Like it's just, and I don't even think they know it's related to like darker is not as good as lighter, and even with my son, he's mixed, but like it's like what is it, not, it's covert, you know what I mean? So it's not like blatant, but they would say like, oh, he must have been playing in the sun, for whatever, like a lot. And so I had to call them on that because they didn't know. And I was like, that's okay. Like, that's okay that his skin is, like, why did you say that? Like, it's okay that his skin is that, like darker, it's nicer, you know what I mean? So, but to kind of like correct and like educate that, like, hey, I don't even know if you're like pointing that out, but it's totally okay.
Man.
So it does happen in Filipino culture. And I think it's just so ingrained, like sometimes they don't realize it.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to be like, hey, it's completely okay.
Right.
Back up off my son.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Back
Right.
up on my son.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that Selena said that, and she sees it in a lot of cultures because Canada is very diverse. I looked up India, and I looked up India because I don't know if you guys saw it some years ago that Oprah did a special in India about colorism, and she would have like different Indian American actors and people like that on the show, and they would talk about their experience in discrimination because of their skin tone. And one thing about India was that it was mainly toward women. And I think you said that we were talking earlier that it's mainly directed towards women. It was okay for the men to be a darker hue, but you lucked up on a good lighter tone woman, and she was just better to have children with, and she was better to marry, and she looked better, you know, on your shoulder type of thing, on the man's arm. But the interesting thing about it is that in India, this was not an issue historically, you know, back in the you know, 1700s, 1600s, this was not an issue. India wasn't tripping on it. It kind of like talked about how you could tell Northerners from Southerners because of their skin tone, but they still weren't tripping. There wasn't like any type of hate for one another. Oddly enough, when the hate came in, was when the British entered in. When the British are coming. When the British and, you know, Persia and all of them came in and started ruling over, that's who started, I mean.
Yeah. Even what Janelle was sharing in the Filipino culture with the things that they use on their skin, like it's the same thing. They use it a little bit here in Canada. I noticed it when I was younger, but it was like the West Indian people. So in Jamaica, it's on a rise that they're actually bleaching their skin. There was a product specifically that everybody knew. We knew the name of the product, and that's what everybody used. And I had a relative. It's not funny, but I'm laughing because I couldn't believe she said this. My father said to her in Jamaica, because he noticed she was getting light every single time he went down to visit. He's like, well, what's going on? Why are you doing that to your skin? And she said if she had the choice to pick up a bottle of bleach on the side of the road or a man, she picked up the bleach.
Dang.
I was like, that's how serious she was about this bleaching. And it is actually like, to me, that's an epidemic that's going on down there. It's been going on like that in Jamaica, like for a really long time. So they're actually using those things on their skin like crazy down there. But you know, as time has progressed, I noticed, especially now, like, I don't know, you all probably noticed it too, but this glow up thing with, you know, Beyonce's song with the brown skin, I think those things now coming out to allow us to accept the dark skin, like I've always wanted to express that to my daughter, like how beautiful her skin was and things like that, because it had nothing to do with anything that I said, but I would notice with her too, that consciousness of her complexion getting darker and things like that. So I think now we're really doing a better job of really letting people know that it's okay. Like, love the skin that you're in, love the color. You know, you see all the shirts now, it's the melanin and all that kind of stuff. So I think now we're kind of shifting a little bit, but there's still a lot of work to do.
There's a whole lot of work to do because it's a deep-rooted issue that has just been really, like the seed was planted and it has grown so many legs. I can say for myself, I definitely had an issue. I am the darker, one of the darkest people in my immediate family. Mom's light skin, brother's light skin, grandma's a lighter skin. Like I'm the darkest one. And growing up in Los Angeles was difficult because back when I was growing up, School Days. Did y'all see School Days? Mm-hmm. School Days was a movie that came out. And it was talking about, well, I got this good hair, or I got this hair. And it talked about this skin complexion and talked about that and how the men preferred a lighter skin woman. And so here I am, my best friend was clear. Janelle, I think she was like your complexion, black girl, but you know, no, she was lighter than you, girl. My best, and like we would go places and it was funny because people would be like, "You're cute," but you, like me, I was cuter than her, but she had the skin tone and she had the wavier hair and all of this, and it was hard. So it created a self-hate. It created a self-hate in me to where I then, just tried to figure out how I fit in and where I was beautiful. And I mean, I hated, to this day, my friends say, "Girl, you're not that dark," but I'd be like, "I'm chocolate." I'm there because I'm like trying to become cool with whatever the heck I am. On my hair, they're like, "Margot, your hair is not even." I'm like, ugh. Like, it's just like issues that I'm still trying to work out. Because what colorism has done is it has embedded a hate that, and then it also, I'm talking a lot, but listen. So I was watching this show. I'm sorry. I was watching this show. There's a show on Netflix, Good Trouble. And there was a young man that died. He was shot by the police, black boy, killed by the police. And they were doing all these activism things for him and like say his name and all that. Black Lives Matter stood up and was taking over everything. And what ended up happening was after the boy had died and they did all this hoopla for him, there was a video that came out of the boy that was killed. And in this video, he was like, "I can't stand no dark-skinned woman. Can't no dark-skinned woman do nothing for me. I would never date." He was like, "I got me an Asian girl and that." And all these black women standing on the front line getting arrested for him, going through all of this. And one of the girls that was like the main one, dark-skinned girl, she was like, "What he is saying is something that I had to deal with myself." But he just never lived long enough to get past it, because we all have been, 9 times out of 10, somebody, a black person, a dark person of any, whatever race you're a part of, you have had to deal with what society, not just racism, but you had to feel it from your own people, the hate that was over something that you had no control over, like the video of the woman separating the kids. And it's a deep-rooted something that's really hard to shake. I'm 42 and I'm still trying to shake.
Yeah, I didn't even realize growing up how harsh we were as siblings to each other. So again, out of my 7 siblings, I only had one sister who was very fair complexion, because my mother's fair complexion, right? And we went on a trip to Jamaica one year, all of us, and we got a hold of what bauxite is, which is bauxite like a red dirt. It's very used for a lot of things. And we took a hold of that word and we called that word to I remember, I won't say all of us, but I think it was me and one other sibling. We were calling my sister bauxite. If we got upset, we were calling her red dirt and laughing about it. And in turn, if we were fighting, I remember there was a really dark black frying pan that my mother had. And my brother used to always tell me that's what I looked like, just to upset me. He's like, you look like mommy's black pot. And I'm like, this is what we used to fight each other with. And I think, you laugh it off or whatever. And it wasn't until I got older, I'm like, okay, well, this wasn't healthy. This was really bad. And I know my parents didn't hear us, but these were the things we were calling each other. And it wasn't until I kind of got into high school and things like that I kind of shed it, because I would see more people that were my complexion. But I had a complex for a minute too, where I was just like, okay, well, you know what? And then we also did one other thing growing up is if there was a guy that was cute, we would ask about his complexion. Was he light skinned? And then if they said yes, we were like, okay, then definitely he was cute. Mike would have got a pass.
Say that, girl. I did the same thing. For a long time, my family told me, well, you want to make sure he's a light complexion. Because on one side of my family, there's some Indian or white or something down the line. And so these lighter skinned people in my family, you want to make sure, because you think about the kids. You don't want the kids to come out too dark. I mean, seriously, it was a huge issue. But I wanted to ask, I tried to find it, but has anybody seen or was anybody able to find anything in the Bible related to colorism? Like, I don't know if it's even biblical or anything.
Okay, so I haven't done extensive research, but I can just tell you, I can read you the verse that I came across in the Bible.
Okay.
So it's Song of Solomon 1, 5 through 6.
Okay.
And as we know, the Song of Solomon, it's a love story between, two people. There's a whole bunch of love going on there.
Whole lot.
But the young lady who he's seen in a vineyard, this is her talking.
Okay.
And this is what she says. And so this is the Amplified Classic version. And it says, I am so black. Okay, it says, I am so black, but you are lovely and pleasant. O you daughters of Jerusalem, I am as dark as the tents of Kedar, like the beautiful curtains of Solomon. And then she says, please do not look at me, for I am swarthy. I have worked out in the sun, and it has left its mark upon me. My stepbrothers were angry with me, and they made me a keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard, my complexion, I have not kept. And then other versions, the Amplified, it says, I am deeply tanned, but lovely. New King James Version, I am dark but lovely. And what was highlighted to me is that she says, I am dark, but a whole bunch of reasons to me why she's kind of justifying, like she had to justify her complexion.
Yeah.
And so it leads me to believe, at least in my interpretation, that it was kind of looked down upon. Because if it was okay, why would she need to explain why she was out in the fields, or this is what my complexion is now that I haven't, or my complexion wasn't what it was before.
Right.
And they use specific words as black, dark, and different things like that. So that's what I found.
Yeah.
But if it was okay, you wouldn't have to make that different,
Say, I'm this, but.
Yeah, there's always
Say,
but.
I'm this, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find
Yeah, I think that was a great scripture identifying it. I think that's exactly, I would get that kind of thought process, because she's saying, but, here's the reason. So there must be something that was being said about her complexion for her to feel like she had to explain it. And the one that stuck out to me was also with Esau, right? Talking about his complexion. And I think, Janelle, you were the one that mentioned about, like, back home in the Philippines, you knew somebody who worked in the field because their skin was darker. And it's the same thing that the scripture actually identifies and says, oh, he was darker because of this reason. It's like there was an explanation that needs to be given for that darker complexion. So I found that interesting when I looked it up.
That's interesting.
But this is what I was just thinking about this scripture. I don't want to say Solomon is legit, but he, you know what I mean? He thought, girl was like fine, right? Because he's getting at her.
Yeah,
so even though society, she had to explain herself of why, she was this complexion, but he thought she was beautiful. So, that says something.
Yeah.
It says a lot. It says a lot.
He was smart. Solomon had every shade, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Thomas like, look, if you fine, you fine. I don't care if you've been out in the sun, if you're a little bit darker, if you swirly, if you got a little bit of sweat on your brow. I don't care about that.
I don't care if you can't
Are
use
you
a
fine?
comb.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
You fine?
Yeah. I see what it's about to clean up to be. Don't even worry about it. We're gonna get these vineyards cleaned up. Your brothers don't even worry about it, girl. Don't even worry.
You
about
fine and you can work.
Right. Like you ain't said nothing. You ain't said
You
nothing.
done got you a good one.
Right.
Listen, colorism is definitely alive and well, and I personally didn't really find anything of haterism or anything like that. Just something really strong in the Bible. But what I do know is that it is rooted in sin. Colorism, just like hate, it's hate. It's hate for something because you just choose to, because you call it ugly, because you want to discard it, because it doesn't meet whatever your warped standards are of what's beautiful. And it is something that we have to work on as a people. I don't know if it even happens in Caucasian, I can't say culture, but I don't even know if it's something that happens with them. But I know if you are a person of color, whatever your ethnicity is, and you tend to have different shades in your race. And if you are just a darker person, listen, you are so beautiful. You are so beautiful. You are beautifully and wonderfully made. Your complexion was specifically designed for you for a purpose. God looks at you and sees nothing but beauty. And we pray that we all get to the point where we can love ourselves, because the Bible clearly states to love ourselves, the second commandment, love ourselves and love our neighbor. But we cannot love properly if we don't have a self-love that is rooted and embedded properly. We love you guys. That's it from the pew. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Hope to see you next week, and we out.
Bye. Hey everybody, it's Janelle here. I just want to say thank you for joining this episode of The Pew. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe on this video. We would love to interact with you, so go ahead and drop a comment. Also follow us on social media, our Instagram. Go ahead and hit that follow button, but we'll see you guys next time.